Hi and welcome back to MDriven learning course. This is chapter 7. Step 215. Cars I used to own is actually a poor name. If we change the name to cars person used to own, it's a better fit as it does not raise questions about whom I refers to. Type the new name in the association and save and see the many errors. So cars I used to own, if I just change it here, I should take a new name to this and save, then I got quite a few errors. Change it back to cars I used to own temporarily and change because and save. Why save then? Well, that's because this error check is execute. We would possibly skip save and just press not that one. Just press this one. Instead of changing it, we will use the rename function. That will help to rename everywhere it is used. Right click the association and choose rename. And this is the new name that we're going to set. So I'm going to right click here and rename. So the new name should be this. And let's see. It's also said check set former name, and whenever you use rename you should also check set former name to help MDriven to help you once your changes also involves creation of change script to a database. Let's see. So this was just a person used to own. Set former name. It has discovered that it's used in all these places, and it seems fair. And I'm going to apply that, and I'm going to save. Now there were no errors because everything was updated for me. Prior name setting is just a property here. Former names. So this could be a list of comma separated different names that can be used trying to find a good transformation of a database. Okay. So create a note on the diagram by right-clicking Add Note. Double-click the note box. Write this in the note. So I'm gonna just right-click Add Note and double-click and paste this in. And what it says is, I can make this bigger. We will assume that a person always has one car at a time, and that person immediately gets a new car on the same day the person sells the first. Okay, that's one assumption. And I can sort of, yeah, I'm gonna have that there. Close the note, resize and place it somewhere nice. Add a new attribute, date purchased, of type datetime in class historic ownership. Date purchased. So add, and I can just copy paste here. Date purchased. Select date purchase and in the property inspector change the attribute mode from persistent, which is the default value and means that it will be saved in the database along with your object, to derived. That means that it's calculated somehow. So selecting that one, attribute mode down here, persistent, setting it to derived like that. notice that there's a slash coming up here. That's the signal in the diagram that this is a derived attribute whenever you see that front slash. 221. Stay in the property inspector. Find derivation OCL. Click up the OCL editor with the 3 dots. So on this one, derivation OCL. So since this is derived, this is actually the way to derive it. We want this date purchase, the one that we are at, to be derived from the prior car's date sold. Yeah, since the assumption we did was that that person immediately gets a new car on the same day the person sells the first. So if we find an older car in the list, and that the day we sold that will be the day we bought this. So that makes sense, at least to me. And then there's a totally different discussion if it's a credible model or not, true to reality. And let's be clear that you decide what is good for your model, and there will always be assumptions. And Don Box had a good saying: every model is wrong, but they can still be useful. So every model is an abbreviation of or a good fit to the problem that you need to have solved. So you shouldn't be too concerned about real reality. You should be concerned about your client's needs and follow that. Of course, real reality will still reflect on the naming, etc., because it's good to be able to understand immediately what things mean in real life. So where were we? So we want an expression that from historic ownership, that will be self in the OCL, goes up to person, self.person, and from there looks at all historic ownership, self.person.historic ownership. Then we get all of them. Make sure that this list is in date sold order. So we get them in correct order, because we can't assume that the next one will be the older one if they are not in date order. So self.person historic ownership, and then operator order by, and then a loop variable h for this is a historic ownership, so I just chose h here, and going to sort on the date sold for each one of those. So let's see if we're able to construct that. And self, and going up to person, got here, and from there going down to all historic ownership for this person, and we're gonna order those, order by, and then we get this. I'm gonna choose to call this one H, and then okay, this is a selection issue. H dot date sold. So this is a valid expression, but the required return type is wrong, because this is supposed to calculate the date purchased, and this will be a collection of historic ownership. So we're not done. We know that, but so far so good. And in this list, we're going to check where in this list this historic ownership that we are at is. So we need to find our position in this one, and that can be done with the operator index of. There are actually 2 index ofs, and we're going to consistently use the index of 0, and the 0 is a signal that it's 0 based. So if it's on position, the first position, it will be position 0. If it it's not in here at all, it will return -1, and that's not a position of the list. Always if there's a 0 variant of your list operations, always consistently use that one. So index of self. I'm going here and doing index of self. And now the return type is int32, namely a position within the list, and still not the date time that we want, of course. And once we have that, we want to grab the one after this, and we can do that with, if we have the list and @0. So here's another example that we're going to use the 0 version of the because if we have an index based on the 0, we also want to use this one. So 0 will get us the first. If we send in a 0 here, it will get us the first list item. So what we can do is @0 and the list in order index of the expression that we have of self +1. That will give us the next one in the list. So that's fair. But let's see. We find that we need the same list twice, and the same list. So that's pretty hefty to sort of repeat all of this. And it seems fair to get it once and then use it in the expression twice. This is done in OCL with the let operator. So the let operator takes some, says there's a temporary memory variables just to hold the expression. So some expression can be assigned to the what we call this, the argument x here in some other expression. Then we can use this x in some other expression. So this is a good example on where this is useful. So we can do let list in order and do all the list in, and then we have the name list in order being this expression. And then we can do that and do operator, and then we can use the same list and do the index of operator and +1. So let's try and do that. So I'm going to do let list in order, and this is just a name, of course. I can have whatever I want in. And the practical way to make this understandable is to have some parentheses that from here to here, and this will be valid. And what I wanted to do with this one was to take @0 and I want to use the list in order, of course, and I want to check the index of course. Now I did it wrong here, because the index of is now the list in order won't be what I want it to be, because that would be the result of index of. So I'm going to remove that one. I just want the list, the ordered list. So list in order @0, list in order index of self, and I want to add 1 to that. So now I still have and from this I will get a historic ownership back. And historic ownership, yeah, an object, but we want this date purchase to be derived from the prior car's date sold. So we append date sold to after here, for example, date sold. Then the returned historic ownership will be here, and we do dot date sold, and we will have a required return type of system date time, actual return type of system date time, nullable, because it might be null, because if we're on the last one, we won't be able to deduce the purchase date of that one. So that's a limitation with our model, but we'll live with that for now. This is actually equivalent if I would have moved this into here in this case. That's no, that would yield the same result. But it could be, we said it should be like that. So now I have a valid expression how to actually calculate the date purchased. And yes, go to person view model, add the date purchased in the historic ownership grid, save test web. Date purchase, I'm going to set that up prior to this one. Okay, save, and we're going to test the web. Let's see where we have that. I think I stopped it since last time. So I'm gonna go local turnkey prototyper. You might want to check MDriven turnkey core because we have a new version out. So this one fixes an issue that we had with the chapter 5 thing. Or chapter 6, I think. But just gonna download a new one and see that it installs, and then I'm gonna start it, and it seemed to start okay. And let's see if I have a person with some cars. I think we worked on this person. Yeah, I'm gonna go on this view because that's the one I. So here I see that I have they purchase. I'm gonna add some cars. Search. I'm gonna add all 3 then. Okay. And yes. We notice that there's no good way for us to edit the date sold, and thus the date purchase will get null all the time. Make the grid editable by selecting the historic ownership nesting head, blue. So what I mean by that, I'm going to close this one because that will lock us from coming here, is this one. Historic ownership nesting. This is a nesting and this is the head of the nesting. So I'm going to select that one. And what should we do? Here we will add a tagged value. Tagged values are extra meta information we can dress up our model with on most levels, like classes, attributes, view models, etc. So you're going to press the tagged values button in the view model editor. So where's that? So we selected this one. I'm going to press this one, tagged values, and then we get this one. And yours is probably empty here, and then you should do this, refresh from wiki, because then we get all the default things to the value store. Let's see what it says. In the shown window, press refresh from wiki button. Note how many predefined possible values are shown. You are not limited to these tagged values, but the predefined has special meaning to Turnkey, the web front end engine, or VecPof, the VPF engine. So we use this way to influence how things are managed in further down the line. So 227, find editable in the top selector, add that, set its value to true, close, save. So these are the value stores values reasonable to assign to a thing of type nesting. So I'm gonna find editable and I'm gonna add that. So now this is tag value is set on the nesting that we selected, but it doesn't have a value, and the value is actually a string and you can type whatever you want, but there's also a choose picker here because between the expected values. So we want, these are actually the only two expected values for this. We're going to choose true because we want this grid to be editable even in on the web view. So after we have done that, close that. Now this will have a tag value, and the only way to see that currently is to actually go in and see that there's a tag value here. Let's save that. In order to make a cell in a grid editable, it must be in an editable grid. And we fixed that just now. But it also must have a read-only expression that does not result in true. But a column must also have a read-only expression that does not result in true. So it can result in false or left empty, and that will also be interpreted as that's not read-only. So I'm going to clear the date sold view model column in the grid's read-only expression. So date sold, this is the read-only expression. It's set to true, and that what we normally do when we add stuff to columns here, because that's the default action has been for quite a while. But in this case we actually do want to edit this one, so I'm going to remove that and save. What happened now was that this turned into a enabled edit box. So we did this one, 229, save test web. We have an editable date picker in the date sold. Enter some different dates in the rows. If you don't have rows, add some. Notice the instant calculation of the date purchase as the date sold comes available on the row after. Let's see if that is true. I'm gonna set this one to today, and this one, yeah, this one popped up immediately. I'm gonna set this one to that date and this one to this date, and click the date sold column head in the grid to verify that you get the correct values. Yeah, so what I mean is, once we have ordered these in the descending order, smallest first, the date sold, yeah, it's somewhat I'm gonna change yeah, I think there's something wrong, but we're gonna come back in a second. I just wanted to make sure that values here are presented in the same manner here, because this is datetime picker, and that will have the ISO format, and this is dependent on the browser format. So in the column date purchase, we want to force ISO date and not trust the browser settings. So I'm gonna have this expression instead, and date purchased, and what this says is 4 first positions is year, and the next 2 are month, and then there's day, and the reason for large capitals here. And you can, this is actually the standard C# thing, so I think even if you stand on this one, and this will navigate to the official MSDN page, I hope. Yeah, and here you can read a lot about what the different formats are, etc. So there's lots of stuff you can do with the toString, and this toString for datetime format is especially important to us. Good. Save that, and heading back to the application. Where did it go? Yeah, okay. Might be. Have I had a too large screen for us to see? This is really hard and annoying. Let's see. You see this, right? And okay, where are my dates? Didn't I save them? Strange. 6, 16, and 23. I'm gonna save that. And as now this is in nice date, and can sort this so it's 6. What does this mean? So I sold the car at the 6th. So there's something seriously wrong, right? I sold it the 6th of October, and then I sold another one at the 16th of October, and the third one at the 23rd of October. So obviously I have done something wrong. Can't really see what I did, but I think I understand that this is the same problem that we as humans, at least me, always mix up time when it comes to ordering, etc. Because if we head back to the definition of this expression and just think about this for a moment, we do order by, which will order in descending order. So we'll have the smallest date, the one that's the lowest date, and then we will go into the future and see the date after that. But what we really meant was to get the date prior to know when we purchased this one, because that was when we sold the one prior to now. So I'm going to switch this to -1 instead, and saving that and heading back here. So now that I saved the derivation, these values are recalculated with a new rule. So one car was sold at this point. So I had a car, but I don't really know when I bought it, and I said that was a limitation from the get-go, and that's fine. But then this one must have been bought on that day, because I sold this one then. So I bought this one, or rather this one, at that date, and then I sold it at the 16th. So I must have bought this one at the 16th, and I sold that at the 23rd. So this is okay then. This is at least the way I wanted it. Yeah, and notice the name column. It now looks like an edit box. This is because we made the grid editable. So this one, it has this frame around it. We have no intention of editing this, so it shouldn't look like this. Set column to is static, true, and save. And so the name column here, and is static, so we can just check this box and save, and head back here, and now it looks like a string like before. And 235, we actually don't even want the name column here, since it will always be our own name, right? These are our historic ownership, the 1, 2, 3 person, and that name will always be the same. So we're gonna drop this column altogether. just wanted to make a point out of is static. Delete. Hmm, 236. From class car, drag out the new association arrow to person. The car and you name current car, and the person and you name current owner. Let's see. It's going to drag out a new association, so we use the drag out association mode. We should go from car to person. I can go like this, and then I can I'm holding the left mouse button. Now I release it, then I have a via point, and I can drop it on person like that. If I want, I can toggle square line. So square line is a mode on these association lines which make sure that they are always squared, always 90 degrees. So that might be better for this particular one. And this one was supposed to be called current car, and this one current owner. (247) In the person view model, add a select box by right-clicking in the green tree. View model class. Add nesting view model class. So you're gonna right-click here and see what it's over here. So somewhere here, I'm gonna right-click and add nested view model class. And I'm going to choose single link with setter. That's what we call a select box, switch box, or combo box. So I'm going to choose this one. The framework has found that there's only really one single link that's possible from here, so it set that one, current car. Look what's happened now. It's current car. It will be set. Let's see, I'm gonna remove these warnings first. These warnings are from maybe you didn't see them. The warnings are from the widget ending up on top of some other stuff here. So I can pull it from here and just drop it anywhere. So let's have it here initially. So how was this defined? It's three parts. It's this one, and this one. So what does this one do? This is actually the single link that we point out. So that's this single end. Here is where we're going to assign or find a existing car object. And this list over here, where does that come from? That's the column for pick list. So if you choose to set one of the you can choose one of the columns to act as a pick list for this intended picker. And what should the pick list contain then? In this case, it will be car all instances, so all cars. It will not work in a gigantic system with millions of cars, of course. Then we need some another strategy, but this is good for small sets. Maybe up to 100, 200, and then it gets annoying for the user to scroll through lists. So now we know what items there should be, what objects there should be in the pick list. But how should we present those items within the pick list? And that's what this associated to link, this nesting does. this is expected to have only one column. We will only look at the one column and use that as the text within the presentation for the list items. So that's fairly simple. There are other ways to do this as well. You can select the picker combo box tool from here and drag on something like this, and then you will get a template that you can continue with UI first. And that was off screen, so I'm going to move it over here and UI first, and then you choose what to use to pick from, and matching targets and where you're going to go, etc. So you will figure that one out, but for now we're happy, so we're going to press Ctrl Z to undo the latest action, dragging out this one like that. I'm going to save and see how this looks on the web. Might have been misplaced my application. Here it is. Alright, hasn't reloaded. Now here it is. Current car. Oh, what's your current car? Well, my current car is old car 1. Save. Okay. Good. Now we're gonna remove these two things, clean up the view a bit, and maybe move this one in. Heading here. We don't need this one. Delete widget. We don't need this one. Delete widget. And moving in this one. And maybe you're gonna keep some sanity in the design. And like this. Good. Let's end there for tonight. Thank you very much for participating. See you next time.